How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics and Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And of course, good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and every nook and cranny where our 100,000 watt transmitter permeates with its signal to make folks aware that, hey, there's this studio in Houston giving you the truth. And of course, welcome to the entire world, which the magic of the internet gives us access to. And you know what? Yes, we actually have daily listeners in places like where? Barcelona, Spain, and otherwise. But anyway, we are going to have a great show for you today. Of course, today is Aquino Day. But before we get to Aquino's Day, we'll go ahead and say to the grandios, los hermanos en el estudio, los genios, the genius in the studio this morning. Good morning, studio.
Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
I am doing fine. Oh, you must be flying
That's a,
solo today.
yeah. Howard's out making some money.
Uh-huh.
Got to do that from time to time. That's good.
Well, that's good. You know that I know you're going to be using that the wheelies in that studio right now, going from phone to machine to transmitter to phone. Oh man, you're going to get some exercise today.
So, yeah, sometimes when we have a lot of callers, they say I look like an octopus in here. So,
Yeah. All right, Mr. Octopus, what's the word of the day?
well, it's about immigration today.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has good ideas on how to solve the problems of the world. The only problem is that people in leadership are more interested in the problem continuing to be a problem, because it gives them political traction. If they keep our lives in a state of chaos, it's easier to pick our pockets and lead us where they want us to go. Take immigration. They don't fix it because they don't want it fixed. A broken immigration policy works better for the corporate wealthy than giving the immigrant rights. So it's your corporate bosses and executives that are using the immigrant as a tool to keep the U.S. working wage low, not the immigrant at the border.
Hey, you nailed it. I mean, uh, it's always the same. It's always the same. Thank you for that, brother Jack. Anyway, folks,
It's
we are going
always
to
the
have a.
guy behind the it's always the guy behind the cloak.
It's always the guy behind the cloak. Anyway, folks, we are going to have a great show for you today. That was El Señor Jacques Van Beber, who every morning gives us that little word. He usually does a lot of stuff, right? When he starts going on his rant, a lot of times he goes ahead and it's infectious, and then I go ahead and build upon it. And I'm trying to hold my tongue. I'm as a naturalized citizen, but an immigrant as well. This actually is serious to me. We've even had people mention stuff about, hi, even if you're a naturalized citizen, we can throw you out. Hey, any day you can throw out the naturalized citizen, wake up, because that means they will all disregard the 14th Amendment and throw others out as well. Anyway, good morning, my dear brother from another mother, a fellow, I'm going to say community organizer, community reveler, person that's doing a lot for the community, El Señor Neil Aquino, who is the founder of the Houston Democracy Project. Buenos dias, hermano. How are you doing?
Good morning, studio, Jack, Berto, and good morning, global audience. And it's far away. We keep it local on Thursdays, but immigration was a big deal in the recent European Parliament elections. They have they have fears of climate immigrants and all sorts of immigrants from Africa and Asia, and it has moved Europe to the right, regretfully.
It's funny, right? Because, and this is what gets me. When you are not informed how cruel one can be, a lot of people are coming over from these different lands, whether it's be the Middle East or Africa, into Europe. And many of the European citizens, they are feeling the stress of having all these folks come over and or they populating our lands, but little in the conversation talks about, well, France in Central Africa and resource extraction, uh, England and Portugal and all these other countries from Angola to South Africa to the entire continent sans Ethiopia, what was actually done down there by folks
Right.
from Europe. Suppose one other side decided to become vengeful. So I think education in a lot of ways is the answer. And what you find, I think, a lot of times is as we lack that, as we lack historical perspectives, the animal in us come out, right? The
Well, that's why
territorialism
they
in
don't want
us
you to
come out.
teach history. You've spoken exactly to what's going on, right? That the library is closed, the history teacher is fired. You can't mention slavery. You're speaking exactly to what's being prohibited and some of the reasons why.
Yeah. And it's interesting because once people understand the dynamics, they and I always get this corny. They love on each other and find out that the culprit are the psychopaths that run corporations. And people get on my case often. Why are you always anti-corp? I am not. But I'm saying the psychopaths that run that imaginary entity known as a corporation that has a life of its own, uh, because of that life of its own, it really it really within its structure harms people, human beings. Just like I call many a times the disinformation from and to MAGA a corporate thing because it's done. I mean, if you listen to the MAGA arguments, the reality is the MAGA arguments are exactly as I could point out in the Powell memo, how the programming of those who are programmable was set into action. But hey, that's for another day. Let's hear what you have. First of all, Lizard Queen says, "Good morning, Houston." Lizard Queen is in the chat. First one in the chat this morning. We have quite a few on Twitter as well. But anyhow, talk to me. What's on your mind this morning, my brother?
Well, there's a lot going on locally. Yesterday we had our city budget. I haven't written about it yet on the Houston Democracy Project, but the city of Houston approved its budget yesterday. $7.3 billion. That's a lot of money. It was approved 15-2, with Council Members Pollard and Thomas opposing it. And the firefighters contract, which has been the big news, hasn't yet been ratified because the controller, Chris Hollins, um, hasn't certified it yet. But they've begun to vote on some of the bond debt to facilitate it, and that contract is going to be a lot of money. We're going to be paying for that in 30 years. That was a focus of discussion, and the firefighters union, the AFL-CIO, came and spoke for it. And I have the firefighters are underpaid, I have felt, but they've also been sometimes bullying and aggressive with council members, and I have mixed feelings. I have they're underpaid. It's a labor win, but it's a union that frequently supports election deniers and tilts towards the right. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
You hear union and tilt to the right. It just sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it? I mean, how does a
Well,
union tilt to the right?
you know, the firefighters are AFL-CIO, and I think it's 92. I think it's 92 unions, but a large number of different unions. Some of them are a little, there are some Republicans who lead some of those unions within the AFL, the CIO Labor Federation. They have a building off Telephone Road, which is near the teachers union building. The teachers are also AFL-CIO. And then the police contract, which comes up in 2 years, they are not AFL-CIO. They're their own operation. And then Hope, the municipal workers, their contract comes up next. So part of the debate was, if we give the firefighters all this money, what will we do with the municipal workers? The leader of the municipal workers spoke before council Tuesday and said, "Oh, no, 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 give the firefighters what they need." So it had all been worked out, um, with the AFL-CIO and the municipal workers and the firefighters, and that will lead to a good contract, or a good for who, I don't know, for the police union. But the city is strapped, and according to budget figures by Sally Alcorn, who is an at-large member of council, the police get $1 billion in the current budget, firefighters 625 million, but parks, I think it was 89 million, and library 52 million. So an awful lot of money goes to police and fire, and a lot of our parks and libraries remain strapped.
That I find sad. Like I said, people. I was watching that guy in Louisiana, Garrett. I don't remember his name. He's the one who was talking about, he understood what defund the police meant, but he would have never used those words because, in essence,
Uh,
what folks want to do is reallocate resources. Cops shouldn't
right.
be psychologists. Cops shouldn't be all these different things. We need to reallocate resources. Let the cops do where you need an armed person, but where we have traffic stops and all that kind of stuff, we don't need somebody with a gun doing all that kind of stuff. So it is interesting that we got to get it right, and I fear that the minds of so many are so corrupted already in our country, where we live by the gun. What is it? The guns. I forgot the things. Gun Bible, something like that. Some
Oh,
phrase like,
yeah. Um,
but
uh,
we have to. Yeah, we have to get it right. I mean, you take a look at countries like England, where you don't have the mass killings that we have here in the aggregate. You find their cops don't even walk around with guns. Doesn't
right,
give you the
right.
opportunity to harm other people. So, anything else that you want to add to this particular subject before I jump to Joe?
It's just that John Whitmire was elected. John Whitmire had done lobbying for the firefighters, um, as a senator, and of course he got rich as a senator. And one of his clients had been the firefighters, so I'll tell you, whatever they paid him, they got a good deal. They got a good deal, and a lot. The long fight between the firefighters union and Mayor Turner. I think they both. Marty Langton is the head of the firefighters union. I think they both did a substantial disservice to the city by not being able to work out, and created a really toxic atmosphere. And now John Whitmire's been able to come and use that atmosphere to just make everything public safety, public safety, public safety. And you think sometimes, I was thinking last night, we should just rename Houston, rename it Police Department, Fire Department,
Yeah.
because it feels like that's all we got, and
Well,
we can all
well,
the other
yeah.
services are just struggling.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. A modern city with pipes busting, but we have well-paid firemen. Look, I am for well-paid firefighters and well-paid. I mean, you'll find it hard for me to go against paying all the city employees a lot. And here's the
Right,
deal. I disagreed with Turner. The Houstonians said they wanted to pay the firefighters
right.
a hefty or a better salary. I think
Better
Turner
wage.
should
Yeah.
have made they should have made it happen. And the truth of the matter is, but they should also say, okay, we're going to pay the firefighters. Now you have to pay for it. The people who said pay them more. Okay, this is how much taxes we'll raise so that we don't have to put bonds out there to put their pay on credit. I agree. And I am willing to pay more taxes to make sure that our first responders are
Well,
taken care
that
of.
was part of the dispute. I mean, that part of the dispute was Turner Whitmire's boasting that he didn't add fees or services. Now, fees or any type of revenue enhancements. Councilman Pollard especially was saying no, no, no. We need to add revenue. So we have a revenue cap. We had this demands by the firefighters. We're not paying any extra taxes or fees, and that's not sustainable. That's just not
No,
sustainable.
I want these people paid, but they're serving us, but I want to pay for that. I don't want, machinations for it to come out of libraries, from it to come out of parks. If we think that we need more cops, then let's pay for it. I don't think we need more cops. I think we need more heart. But let's go to Joe, and then we'll move it on from there. Come on in, brother Joe.
Hey, Egberto, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, I just want to share a couple thoughts this morning. You know, that the KPFT is changing, the demographics are changing, right, and the political landscape is changing. Your guest mentioned that Europe is he says it's moving to the right, but that's really just a label. That far right label. It's it's a dog whistle, right? So I think that it's people that this is happening because people are starting to see through progressive nonsense. And kudos to Jack this morning for putting it together that unchecked immigration leads to low wages, right? But just to share an example, I would want to call and share an example. One example each time I call of progressive nonsense and progressive hypocrisy, right? But when Trump was first elected president, right, one of the first phone calls he made, some bureaucrat raised his hand and said, "Oh my God, influence and conflict of interest with this call with Ukraine," right? And they just proceeded to just derail the Trump presidency because he's a orange man bad, right? So couple of years go by, and what did he say? He said, "Hey," Trump still told the president of Ukraine, "Hey, why don't you look at Joe Biden and the things he's been doing in your country, right?" And they turned that into abuse of authority and contempt of Congress, and they impeached him for it, right? It was a big deal. Well, a few years go by, and then there's a video released. There's Joe Biden sitting on a chair, saying, "Yeah, I told him to get rid of that prosecutor, who was looking into my son. And, I held up $5 billion in aid, and I told him, get rid of that prosecutor, and son of a you-know-what, that prosecutor was gone." He was bragging about the very thing that Trump was calling about. So that's just, that's a fact. I saw it with my own eyes. And, that's just one of the many progressive, lies that they pay bloggers, such as yourselves to put out there.
I wish.
Anything else, my friend?
No.
Okay,
I'm
well,
good.
let
I
me
gotta go to the hospital. Have a good one.
No, hold on. Don't you dare leave. You wait till we answer. You got your platform to say what you needed to say. Now, let's do the respectful thing and wait for the response. And here's the thing, my dear brother. I can't hold what you just said against you. I really can't. But for those of us who really get sources of information, not just from the right or the left, but actual fact-based information, it should concern you that most reputable sources, other than what Donald Trump has put out there with his group, have actually shown the proof. You can go to any fact check site of reputation and find out that what he said, what my brother Joe just said before he left, was patently false. The second thing is that the conflation of the progressive moniker those of us that are progressive, stand for particular human values. It has nothing to do with the moniker or with the characterization, with the caricature that my brother just spoke about. The idea is, if you can equate something that is good for humanity, something that is good for we the people, that really means the corporation and the powerful don't get to abuse. What they do is they reconstitute the meaning of the word. If I tell Joe, I want to make sure that you have health care, and this is how we do it and whatever, because he's a human being, albeit, sort of taken by the MAGA infection. If I point out the different items that a true progressive stands for, he would be crazy not to support it. And that's why most people, when asked the questions that progressive stand for, actually vote in with and say, yes, this is what we want. Now you attach the word Democrat or progressive to the policy, it suddenly drops. Instead of being 80-90%, it suddenly drops to 50-60%. So what I am doing, I hope, with our program here, and notice I said our program, is to try to try to separate the caricature of the progressive and what we stand for. Separate that caricature from reality, because the reality is, there is a concerted group of people that take advantage of all the things that worry or that Joe is afraid of, or people like Joe are afraid of, and use it against them and turn them into viruses. And why do I say viruses? A virus is it's an entity that allows itself to go into good bodies and replicate, make those good bodies, those good cells, create bad things. Remember that. A virus doesn't replicate on its own. A virus goes into a healthy, good cell and destroys it and makes it into creating a new thing that is not good for you. Steve, come on in.
Morning, Berto. Oh,
Good
good you
morning,
can hear
sir.
me.
Yes, I can hear you, my brother. Talk to me.
Good morning, Neil. I just wanted to say thanks and share a short story. Got a 20-year-old daughter, and she had her first time voting a couple days ago on the last day of the early voting for the HCAD. And there's only two positions, and it was so easy for her. And I used what y'all talk about. I went to Harris Votes, took a sample ballot, made my check marks, did my research, and I kind of agreed with what Neil was saying. But I sent her a picture. I said, vote for these two unless you're strongly feeling, something different. And she's a researcher. But anyways, she sent me back a picture, said it was so easy, and because there's only two people voting, and there's 8 poll workers and only 1 or 2 people voting in there, and was so happy with her first time voting. So thanks for all the information on that.
Well, thank you, my brother. Neil, you want to respond to that? I appreciate, and thank you for doing that with your daughter, Steve. It's so important. I think if we do that in the 2024 November election, and help our offsprings, help other people that are not used to voting, I think that is manna from heaven. So thank you, brother. Go ahead, Neil.
Right. I'm glad our show is able.
Oh, you're
is
kind
able to
of
be
break.
of service. The HCAD voting ends on the election day. Okay, excuse me. I thought I was breaking up. Excuse me. HCAD voting, general election day, is the 15th Saturday. And Melissa Noriega and Palumi Adelke It's the Harris County Appraisal District. There are 3 new elected positions established by the nefarious Republican Senator Paul Betancourt. The elections in the middle of June with nothing else because they don't want you to vote and be confused. And it's difficult to explain it to people. When you talk to people about it, they're like, wait a minute, didn't I vote for that? What about this? Why is there another one? So you have to get through 3 or 4 questions just to even get to it. Turnout is something like 1.5%. Evan Choate, who's the head of the coordinated campaign at the Harris County Democratic Party, has been working very hard. And there have been, and I want to just mention State Senator Molly Cook and State Representative Christina Morales, who have been really aggressively pushing this. And I want to briefly address that because campaigns, Molly Cook's campaign used a lot of volunteers. So on one hand, that's excellent, and we're all for that, and she earned her victory. But on the other hand, we need to recognize that if you use a lot of volunteers, those are community resources. You've extracted resources from the community, and you have an obligation to return it. And so Molly's been doing that. Molly set up 3 phone banks. I attended one of them and made calls over the week for a couple hours. All elected officials should be doing that. All elected officials should be returning the resources they take from the community, the small donations, the volunteers. But anyway, Saturday, please vote. Please vote. One of the Republicans running for the HCAD, Kyle Scott, was one of the 22 people who filed an election denial lawsuit to try to overturn the election. In 2022, he lost the race for county treasurer, and the Republicans know, even at this low level, authoritarianism will need a local infrastructure, and everyone on the right elected is part of that anti-immigrant, far-right election denying infrastructure. So Melissa Noriega and Palumi Adelke, and they themselves are qualified, independent of the nature of their challengers.
And for those of you who need to learn about these candidates, I did interview both Pelumi Adelke as well as Melissa Noriega, and you can find that interview at politicsdoneright.com. Just put their name in the search, and you can actually watch that interview. Now, let's go ahead and go to Brother Donald. And by the way, folks, you can call us in 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738. Come on in, Brother Donald.
Good morning, Neil. Good morning, Alberto. How are you guys doing?
We are doing fine. Don't forget Jack now. Jack is in there like an octopus.
That's right.
I already spoke to Jack. I told him good morning on the phone. Remember, we get to talk before I go to you. But okay.
That's right.
The psychopath has the right, by being an American or wherever he is, to create his utopia. The problem is you're not seeing his utopia doesn't align with your utopia. It's a relationship without relations. There has to be a give and take. We just have to learn how to put it in check.
I agree.
And that's what you're trying to do.
Okay, first of all, let me just say, Donald, let me don't go to the other thing, because what you just said is very important. What you just said is very important. My utopia may not be your utopia, but what we need to do as a society is, because these two utopias must coexist, they must coexist based on honesty. And that honesty, by the way, has come out of you so many darn times it ain't funny. But what I see, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Donald, tell me if I'm wrong. I sometimes, as I'm listening to you, see a sort of a fight with yourself, because you come out with a whole lot of, Brother Donald, comes out with a whole lot of things that progressives say, oh, yeah, that's true. That's what we've been saying. We agree with you. That's what we've been saying. But then, this is more Joe probably than you, but then you balk at progressives as a caricature, or you deal with progressives as a caricature. But then you come today and you say, you have to be able to see another person's utopia, which is also what progressives preach, right? but nobody talks about it. One of the reasons why you find so many different views on the progressive side is that every view we look at, we say, well, you know what? Let's look at all sides of the matter. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of interject that
Okay,
with the
real quick,
statement
I'm gonna
that you
get you
made.
on this.
Go ahead,
Okay, you
continue.
say throw spaghetti on the wall. You say throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. I know
Mhm.
it is this. You throw hooey up against the wall and see what sticks. The problem is, if you're the man that owns the wall, or you're the man that's got to clean up the hooey, it's obviously a different story. And then one other thing, your caller yesterday said that Trump is a racist. He is not a racist, and I can prove it. If you
Okay.
got Benjamin Franklin's, which was not a president, in your pocket, that man will kiss your butt to get them dollars out. He doesn't care what color you are. He is driven by money. And and a lot of people in America are. So that's all I got to say about that. I'll be like Forrest Gump. That's all I got to say about that.
All right. Well, I am not, I am not going to argue with you, my brother, whether Trump is a racist or not. For me, it's what you say and what you do. That's all. The only thing that tells me if you're a racist or not. And by the way, all of us have the ability to be prejudiced, racist, all these different things. And you know what? Myself, I had to extricate a whole lot of that from myself, but I had to first acknowledge myself that I had those prejudices. The problem with a whole lot of people is that whenever one is called a racist, they take it as an insult, a permanent act of something against them, as opposed to say, well, did I have racist behaviors that I need to mitigate? Did I have sexist behaviors that I need to mitigate? Did I had homophobic behaviors that I need to mitigate? In my case, and I always use myself because I don't want it to be an attack on others that are possibly racist, but instead to say you are racist. So why don't you just fix it? It's something that's not your fault. It is what society has imparted on us. I was a sexist, Donald. I was a homophobe, Donald. I made the effort
No, I
after
think you
I
can throw
wait,
your
wait, hold,
ball.
hold on,
Hold on. Let me.
hold. No, no, let me
Okay, go
finish. Let me
ahead.
finish. When I chose to acknowledge who I was, those terrible parts of who I was because of where I came from, I made the concerted effort to change, but I had to first acknowledge it was there. And that's what I'm telling folks that are racist or otherwise. Just do that and everything is cool, bro. Go ahead, Donald.
There's your next book, Becoming the Better Human. The 12 or
Mm-hmm.
14 or however many steps you have on self-reflection. Remember, I told you the mirror in your bathroom to reflect at the end of the day, and the
Yes.
caricature next to realize life is a joke. So there's your next book. All right, I'll holler at you later. Take it easy.
I thank you for giving me the advice for my next book, brother. You want to add anything to that, Neil, before we jump to Harry?
No, let's hear Harry.
All right, Harry, come on in. Before Harry, I want to just, we have a full chat. I want to welcome Eric Hayes from Atascocita. I want to welcome Alizarin Dreams. I want to welcome Billy Allison Irwin. I want to welcome Texas Blue Bonnet. I want to welcome Lizard Queen. We got a full house. Thank you guys for being here.
Right.
Please remember to tell folks about KPFT. Please remember to share, my dear brothers and sisters. Come on in, Harry.
Good morning, Neil. Good morning, Jack. And buenos dias, como estás tú, my brother from another mother, Alberto el Profesor Luis.
Buenos
Anyway,
días, hermano.
muy bien. Before I start in on Joe, I usually like a lot what Donald says, but I have to disagree with him that Donald Trump isn't a racist. He is a racist, but yes, he is driven by money, and he does use people. But if he wasn't a racist, why was it then when when Fred Trump was running before he turned it over to the Donald, his real estate business? Why did they do segregated housing, and why did they have a C on the application for blacks? And why did Fred Trump have dealings with the Ku Klux Klan? And why did Donald, and I spoke about this with Steve Hunter several months ago. Why is it when Donald Trump was president, when he on the 4th of July, I believe it was the year of it was either 2019 or 2020, but he went up to he had the 4th of July celebration at Mount Rushmore, and the Ku Klux Klan had a lot of their meetings up there. I saw this video on that. So I don't know about Donald Trump not being a racist. And then
Can before you go to your second subject, Harry, because I want to touch on that, and I want everybody to hear this. I really don't care if Donald Trump is a racist. I don't care if any politician is a racist or whatever they are. Honestly, I don't. What I care about, because I have no love for politicians as far as I think they're going to come and have dinner with me. So I don't have to be around them. The only, and I want us to disassociate, because a lot of times we get into discussions where we talk about, is he a racist? Is she a racist? Is he not a racist? Does he like this? Does he not like this, etc. The only thing I can judge folks by, that I care about these politicians about, is policy. And I think, and I say this respectfully, Brother Harry, I think if we get off the whether they're a racist, sexist, homophobe, xenophobe, and concentrate on dictating what policy is supposed to be that help all of us, I think we'll clear a bar. But that is just my opinion, in that I think if we disassociate race and all these issues and say, as long as this person does X, Y, because that's all we need the politician for. They're the representative that's out there to do right. Continue, my brother.
Right, and then the Central Park Five. He never apologized for those people, and they were eventually exonerated. But he never apologized for when that rape happened to that white woman, and he thought that those Central Park Five blacks.
All right, go to your second point, Harry. Harry, go to your second point.
Okay, I'll get off of that. I wanted to push back on Joe. Progressivism is not nonsense. Progressivism is so that everybody has a chance in the society. Progressive people believe in investing in people, and as you mentioned earlier, Roberto, during your monologue, when you run into people and you say, why do you always talk against corporations? You're anti-corporation, and you're not anti-corporation. What you are, you always talk about many times on the show, and you broke it down yesterday when you were talking about capitalism, is corporations should pay their fair share of taxes. And then they should stop ripping off the poor employee. And that's why you have something like William Barber, because William Barber believes in pulling the poor up, and so that if wealthy people would pay their fair share, we can invest into people who don't have as much. You have and then those people, they get educated, they have a better opportunity in the society. And I even have heard Joe say something.
I want to thank you, Harry. I want to interrupt because I know the point you're making, but I want to thank you for doing something important here, highlighting the work of our Reverend Barber from, I think, South Carolina or North Carolina, and the work he's doing. Because North Carolina. Thank you very much, my brother. Because he is doing important work, and he's doing something that I just spoke about. Let's forget about that race thing and realize that the race thing is an issue to separate us and get us against each other. What Reverend Barber has done is he's gone into Appalachia and all these other places and brought people together and showed them what the problem really is. Harry, my phones are filling up. As usual, you always have something good to say.
Most people don't have a chance, and progressivism believes in people that don't have a chance to invest.
Thank you, brother. Got it. Brother, I got it. You made your point. I got it. I got to get you go. Let's go to Ray from Third Ward. Come on in, Brother Ray.
Hey, Berto. Yeah, I understand where Harry was going with that. And I wanted to kind of push back on what Joe was saying. Every time I hear Joe speak, all I hear is white fear, and I know you don't like to play the race card, but Joe, every time you speak, every time you open your mouth, you just basically prove what I believe is that Trump will basically, when Trump was a young man on Oprah, he said, if I was to run, I'd probably run as a Republican because those people will believe everything. Something to that effect. But basically, being a progressive means I'm fighting as a black man. I'm fighting every day as a progressive for my right to exist in this country, because I had went on a Black History tour and I saw the ugly history of America, of what it meant to be a black person and slavery and everything. So, Joe can never tell me, he could never stand in my face and tell me being a progressive is bull crap or whatever he said. It's basically, he'll never understand, because he never had to understand a history where his existence literally meant he was property to somebody. So I take what he said offensively.
Ray, a lot, and when I talk about loving what Reverend Barber is doing, is just that the fear Reverend Barber is able to show people with his work that fear is unwarranted, and that we are all being played. I want to bring Neil into the conversation because and it seems to me like Neil wanted to add to that.
I just wanted to go back for a second, a brief indulgence about Fred Trump. Because Harry was talking about Fred Trump, so very briefly, Fred Trump's housing first project, one of his first housing projects, was in my hometown of Cincinnati, and I looked it up. It was in a neighborhood called Swifton, which is where I went to high school. And he would buy ads. He says, our Swifton village will be a veritable paradise of suburban living. And as lawsuits revealed, Trump reserved his worries for white tenants. Of only 2 or 3 apartments out of 1,167 in the complex were owned by black families. So that's about a 40 or 45%. This is Cincinnati Magazine. But I want to just take the opportunity to mention Fred Trump, to take a little. It's true as could be. It's true as could be. And so we don't always want to visit the sins of the father upon the son. But it seems to me there was a little passing on there.
Look, thank you very much for that, Neil. Close her up for me, my brother Ray.
Yeah, Joe, you just need to open your eyes and understand that progressives are not here to make your life hell. We are literally here to make our life livable. That's it.
Thank you, brother. As usual, that is a great one. Thank you for those last words, especially brother Ray. Let's go to Marlene. Marlene, come on in. Line number 5.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Marlene. How are you doing this morning, sister?
I'm good. So I missed Joe's comment. I'm on my way to work, but we're talking about progressive, and I just want everybody to remember, it used to be the bleeding heart liberal. Okay, we embraced that, and so they turned it around. Now it's actually, progressive is kind of losing its tinge. Now you're a socialist, or they pick names and they try to degrade you with that. If we embrace it, then they got to pick something else. It's all it is fear. When we decide to stand up and say, yes, we're liberal, we gave you clean air, we give you clean water, we FDA, anything that is good in society was done by liberals. Okay, so now they got to.
Sorry for interrupting, Marlene, but I think you nailed it, right? And the thing about it is, here's what's the funniest thing, is liberal and progressive and all these words is not something associated with party until they decided to create that split. If you look in the Civil Rights Times, Marlene, things, what Ray spoke about, a lot of this was because of progressive Republicans. We look at, we have to understand that a progressive isn't a Democrat or Republican theoretically. A progressive is somebody who wants to do what? Progress, right? Liberal.
Right.
When we talk about our democracies, we're talking about a liberal democracy. Continue, Marlene. I'm sorry.
Well, you know, if we didn't have progress, everybody'd still have an outhouse in the backyard, and we'd be cooking dinner in the front yard in an open fire. Okay,
Right.
that's progress. That's
Right.
progress. Where is the problem with that? Now, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be regulations. See, that's their problem. They don't want to say the R word. There should be regulations so that everybody gets to progress. Oh, no.
This,
They just want people to get it. If you look up
Neil?
the history of, there's
Yeah.
a town, Watersville, I'm sure you know it. Do you know when they got running water? Now, they paid city taxes, but you know when they got indoor plumbing? In the 80s. 1980.
Wow. What town is that? I hadn't seen that one.
That's a little town. It's called Bordersville in Humboldt,
Oh,
Texas.
that's right around the corner. You're so
Uh,
right. Yes.
yes, you're
Yes.
right. 1980s, they got indoor plumbing. So they paid city taxes, but so you know when you talk about progress, they only want it for certain people, certain
Right.
entities. Everybody should be, and so that's where I embrace that word progress. You're right. I am progressive. What part of it do you not want? You want to give up? You want to give up
Thank
indoor
you.
plumbing because that was progress, right? Which
Marlene,
part of progress are they willing to give up?
Marlene, thank you very much. And I think, I think when more people get away from the caricature that the corporations that benefit from the caricature one makes a progressive, all folks eventually become progressives because that's what survival is all about. But thank you so kindly for calling in, Marlene.
You're welcome. You have a great day.
You too, my dear. Let's go to Tag, line 3.
Good morning,
Tag, you're
Alberto.
on. Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
Well, Joe had mentioned Burisma
Yes.
and prosecutor in Ukraine. Well, the
Yes.
prosecutor, Shokin, and he was the last of the Russian holdovers, and they wanted the Russian influence out of Ukraine. That's and all of Europe wanted them out, not just Joe Biden. And Burisma was selling gas from the Russians to the Chinese, and you know that was part of what Hunter was doing there, was working that connection of hydrocarbons. So you know that was all legitimate. And now Hunter's going to have to go and you know show where his income came from and where it went to on that. It's all above board. You know there is no weaponization of the DOJ unless you're unless it's against Hunter Biden. But I just think that the Republicans really need to stop with the disinformation before they open their mouths. They should look and see and understand what they're talking about. And you know, they were trying to get the Russian influence out of Ukraine. I mean, and I know there's some Republicans that have some hardship with that. So I feel sorry for them that they don't really know what's going on, and they come on and run their mouths. So
Well,
that's what I wanted.
Tag, thank you for that, Tag. But here's the thing, right? Fear is a powerful thing, and when you can use partial truths to enhance fear, it's amazing. Look, I'm not going to be a defender of Joe Biden's son because we all know, you and I know that Joe Biden's son. A lot of the benefits he got from being able to be this international businessman was trading on his name. But it's no different than Trump kids or Reagan kids or Carter's kids. Well, Carter kids were different. Carter kids, that bunch is completely different from all the rest. And we don't yet know about Malia and Sasha from Obama's. But all the kids of all these presidents have always benefited from the name that they had. So I don't want to come out in a super defense of Hunter Biden. All I am saying about Hunter Biden is he's not doing anything that most of the other president kids haven't done, right? And is it illegal? I kind of doubt what he did, except for the letter of the law with the gun stuff. The guilty verdict was probably justified, and but it's also something that isn't really prosecuted in the aggregate. So is he getting any preferential treatment? I think he's getting the opposite from preferential treatment because of the Biden administration doesn't want to. You agree with that, Neil, or is that what you said?
I felt if anything I felt if anything they were I'm harsh on him, and I wanted to thank Marlene for that call. they keep changing the words progressive and liberal, and it actually happens from both sides of the ideological aisle. On left, the word liberal has become a source of division. Years ago, the word progressive, Teddy Roosevelt used to worry that his successor, William Howard Taft, wasn't sufficiently progressive. But when I heard Marlene's call, we worked so hard to be able to say the word liberal. They kept throwing it at Mike Dukakis, if you're old enough to remember. But I really appreciated Marlene's call, because some of those changing and demonization of those terms and pulling the rug from under people on the left is meant to keep us really unable to express who or what we are, because the terms keep getting changed and demonized. So I think Marlene caught that well.
And both of I think both of us, I think, would admit we are proud liberals. We are proud progressives, and I think a
Yeah,
progressive is a deeper instantiation of liberal. But I could be wrong, but that's how I've always seen it.
yeah.
Tag, anything else before I jump to Bard?
Yeah, I think progressives want to go out and learn the details and present facts rather than some of this half-cocked, stuff that these people are throwing around. Other people are. So that's why I'm a progressive, because I want to know the truth. So
Thank
with
you,
that,
my
I'll
brother.
go. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. Let's go to Brother Bard. Come on in, Brother Bard. You're on.
Yeah, I was hoping to talk to Tag. I wanted to see if he could help me get a job at Burisma. I sure would like to make $20,000 a week. I think that'd be awesome. And
You heard before Bard. Before you continue, you heard what I said, right?
yeah, I heard what you said. I wanted to ask you if you thought, since we're finally talking about Hunter, if you thought that his laptop was Russian disinformation or not.
Well, actually, it was. I mean, not because let me ask you a question, Bard. In the whole scope of things that are wrong with the country, and I ask this from the depths of my heart with the deep honesty. What's the deal about what is it with the laptop that you think materially affects you?
Well, that was why I asked the question, because if it's not Russian disinformation, which it
No,
has
no, no.
proven,
Answer, my brother. I asked you a simple
and
question,
it
my brother. How does Hunter Biden and his laptop and his involvement with anything materially affect policy that affects you? Please tell me. Why
well,
do you
that's
allow others to change? Why do you allow smoke and mirrors, my brother? Listen to me what I'm saying, please. Why do you allow tangential issues to take up the space that's necessary to get some positive policy pass for both you, Neil, myself, Jack, Bard, Brian, and everybody else? What's the deal?
well. I'm trying to answer, and that's because if it was not Russian disinformation, then it is American disinformation. So why would America do this to us?
Again,
Is my point.
you see, I'm just trying to show you the mentality, my brother, and I'm saying this respectfully. Uh, what I asked you does not correlate with what you said at all. What correlates is that somebody has implanted in your head that somehow this Hunter Biden issue is relevant to your well-being. And again, that's what they do. You are the classic example, my brother, as far as what the calculated psychology of those misinforming, misleading, etc. have you concerned about, as opposed to why not ask Donald Trump or Joe Biden, why didn't you pass this particular policy that ensured my employer gave me this because I worked an honest day of work? You see what I'm saying? In other words, there are things that you can ask both Trump and Biden that has nothing to do with Burisma, that doesn't affect you, that has nothing to do with these external issues. But we have you so tied up on these that the things that are really relevant to your life, you don't think about. But I'm running out of time, Brother Bart, and I need to get Brian in, and I only have a minute for Brian. So look, this is your show as well. Call tomorrow. Let's go to Brian.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay. So, yeah. So.
Oh, hold on, Brian, hold on. I need to acknowledge somebody in the chat. Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain, is in the house, and I definitely don't want to not make sure that our folks know. She says, "I'm late, but you're here. Come on in, Brian."
Okay. We're finally going to get to the bottom of Biden's classified documents that he's kept since he was a senator. And the man was going to prosecute him, but he was too feeble-minded to go to court. And now everybody's in an uproar about, oh, well, yeah, he's lost his mind. But now we're going to get to the bottom. And as far as civil rights and Donald Trump's father not renting to black people, Al Gore was a senator and voted against the Civil Rights Act in 1964. Now, who's worse of a racist? Someone who doesn't rent to black people, or someone who nationwide denied black people civil rights?
Okay, now no, Brian, stop, because you made a very stop. Wait, you made a very important point that I'm going to agree with. And notice earlier what I said. We have to distinguish policy, those who have the power on policy, as opposed to, let's say, Mr. Trump's daddy. And by the way, sir, you are right. Al Gore's father, who voted against the civil rights, is worse than Donald Trump's daddy, because his vote affected people, all the people of America. But you see, we can have this intelligent conversation if we have it on intelligent terms. So you made a damn good point, but you screwed it up with other issues that you talk about, my brother. So let's look at what you just did there. Wait, stop. I gave you the chance to talk. What you did was a good thing. I don't have the time to explore it right now, but you laid a path that we can actually talk about some sensible thing as far as who materially affects you. So, Brian, we'll talk another day. All right?
Yeah, bye.
Thank you. All right, Neil, give me a closer, my brother. We had a lot of calls today, and so let me hear about your Houston Democracy Project. It has to be quick, though. I got about 30 seconds.
Houston Democracy Project, HoustonDemocracyProject.com, HoustonDemocracyProject.com, and we're trying to organize, strengthen pro-democracy coalitions in Houston and Harris County. HCAT elections, March 15th, Noriega and June 15th, excuse me. Noriega and Adelke, tell everyone you know your one vote may make the difference.
All right, let's go. What have you got to tell me, Brother Jack?
I'm progressive.
Thank you. Anyway, folks, look, I love you all. Thank you all for being here. Great conversation. We should all be talking among each other. My name is Egberto Willis. Don't forget what you didn't cover here. Go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter to get the entire show. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. America utopia. Take away the economy from those who rig it. As I see it, class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. It's worth it.
It's time now for your good news for a good planet. Coffee cups. Coffee consumption is a global ritual. Sadly, 99% of the paper, plastic, and foam cups it's served in ends up in the trash, taking over 20 years to decompose. German startup Caffeeform is seeking to change that. They've invented a way to upcycle disposed coffee grounds into reusable, recyclable coffee cups, tapping into one waste stream to keep another out of the landfills. The company employs bicycle couriers to pick up used coffee grounds from cafes around Berlin, collecting over 100 pounds of it daily. The grounds are sorted, cleaned, and dried, then combined with discarded beechwood scraps and other plant-based materials and polymers. The mixture is then compressed and formed into cups and lids, which are durable and